The year is 2085. Konstantin is focused on wealth accumulation, while his friend Kolya invents a device that can transfer consciousness from one body to another, naming it the translocator. They decide to test it on a vagrant and a stray dog, but unfortunately, the experiment fails. Kolya then suggests starting a company to produce cheap robots. If that doesn't work out, he plans to buy a plot on Mars and build a farm there. 15 years later, Kolya enjoys family life on Mars, managing a robotic farm and making documentaries about it. He also breeds copters, much to his wife Nadezhda's annoyance, as he spends a lot of money on this hobby. The couple has 2 daughters, Marina and Luda, with the latter helping her father create weather cyber installations shaped like Russian birch trees. In his free time, Kolya visits a dump regularly replenished with waste from Earth. There, he finds an old but functioning robot. Meanwhile, Konstantin, the CEO of Ijevsk Dynamics, announces to investors the construction of a new factory on Mars to mine a very rare substance, inaccessium. He delegates the work to his deputy Pavel. It turns out that the owner of the land where the substance is located refuses to sell his farm. Konstantin is surprised to discover that the owner is Kolya, his old friend. Back on Mars, Luda finds the translocator in a barn, but Kolya is busy reprogramming a new robot. Once activated, the robot starts looking for a rag to clean the floor. Suddenly, spaceships land on the farm, with a delegation led by Konstantin, who rushes to embrace his old friend. He's amazed by the herd of goats and is thrilled by the vegetables his friend has grown. He then offers to forget their past corporate takeover, promising a huge sum that would allow Kolya to settle wherever he wants. Konstantin gets punched in the face for this. Pavel then reads a decree declaring the corporation as the owner of Mars. The demolition of the farm begins while Konstantin's subordinates lock his family in the hangar of a space yacht. At this moment, Kolya notices the absence of the robot. The farmer neutralizes the guards and escapes from the yacht, while Pavel loses his job for reminding that evicting people from their homes is illegal. Meanwhile, Konstantin goes to wash up when the robot finds his jacket and uses it to clean the floor. Konstantin runs after it, but at that moment, workers demolish the power generators, and Kolya, rushing into the barn, pushes his former friend, who falls into the translocator's chair. When it's all over, Kolya tries to turn on the robot, but it suddenly starts speaking with Konstantin's intonations. Kolya rejoices that the translocator works, while the robot, now Konstantin, becomes furious, demanding to be changed back. Konstantin's body starts behaving erratically. Pavel orders his injured boss to be taken away, dismissing the annoying metal creature. Kolya runs after them, but the ship takes off. At night, Kolya repairs his car to reach the station and fly to Earth for his family and to return Konstantin to the corporation. Pavel returns home, where his wife and children meet him and confesses that he has been fired. Galina is horrified. Their family is drowning in subscriptions for the apartment, the car, the new repairs. And tomorrow, the fridge subscription ends. Maybe they should ask Konstantin for leniency. On Mars, Konstantin admits that the train they are rushing to is the last one because no one should know about the construction of the new factory. The pair manages to pull the car out of the sand, but it refuses to start. So, Kolya forces Konstantin to apologize to the offended car, after which the car races to the station. Pavel arrives at the office and sees damaged robots, scattered items, and his incoherent boss. The doctor diagnoses Konstantin as having the developmental level of a 1-year-old child. Meanwhile, an old woman stops Kolya's car, asking for a ride to the station. She sold her plot to Konstantin's company, and they bought her a train ticket to Earth. Soon, the company reaches the station. Kolya says goodbye to the car and sends it home. The humans and the robot board an interorbital elevator and ascend to the platforms, but there are no more tickets available for the train to Earth. Kolya tries to negotiate with the conductor when Konstantin, now a robot, sees a ticket with the old lady, their fellow traveler. At this time, on Earth, Galina advises her husband to become the corporation's leader himself and to raise his boss into a good person. Then Pavel puts her on pause. In reality, she is just a hologram, like the children she made him subscribe to. After expressing all his grievances, the man turns Galina back on, but she continues to pressure her husband. Konstantin brings Kolya a ticket, and the pair boards the train. But then, Kolya sees the old woman from earlier who can't find her ticket and realizes where the robot got it. Kolya forces Konstantin to return the ticket and get the old lady on the train. He literally throws her into the moving carriage when another old lady on the platform addresses them. It turns out Konstantin put the wrong woman on the train. Kolya sends the robot to catch the train and get the old lady off while he helps the real traveler. But the old lady activates a jet engine on her suitcase trolley and catches up with the train herself. The train departs. Konstantin expresses his thoughts about Kolya's soft-heartedness, and then Kolya switches him to vacuum cleaner mode. Konstantin starts cleaning the platform, threatening his friend with dire consequences when he returns to his body. He then finds a space mail ticket. Kolya has an idea, and the pair heads to the post office. Meanwhile, Pavel prepares for sleep in Konstantin's residence. The friends embark on their journey to Earth in a postal box. However, at the sorting center, there is a mix-up, and the package ends up on the route to Plutonsk. While Kolya's family returns to Mars in a rescue capsule hacked by Luda, they immediately spot their car driving by. Kolya and Konstantin, emerging from the postal box, notice that everyone around is wearing respirators. Realizing they are on Plutonsk, Kolya can't help but utter strong words. It's the most polluted place in the galaxy, notorious for its disdain for robots and Konstantin. Konstantin searches for a phone to call a shuttle, while Kolya writes a letter to his family and sends it with a postal drone. At the same time, Pavel is feeding the boss porridge while watching news about the falling shares of Izhevsk Dynamics and the company's fate, depending on its owner's upcoming presentation. Pavel panics, but Galina calms him down. They can buy Konstantin's image on the black market. However, they first need to rewrite her code. Galina gains full freedom, but still fails to execute the plan due to the protection on the boss's image. Then, she suggests Pavel present it himself. But for that, Konstantin needs to sign a permission with a blue seal, which is in his office, accessible only by scanning the boss's eye. Pavel takes Konstantin to the office. The employees watch the man behaving like a child, deciding to play in the middle of the room. The scanning also proves troublesome. Eventually, Pavel and Konstantin manage to enter the office, where the deputy retrieves the seal, signs the order, and asks the secretary to send the document to all shareholders. Kolya and Konstantin find a working canteen, hoping there's a phone inside. But upon entering, they encounter a hostile group of miners, as Konstantin had fired people and replaced them with metallics. The miners drag the robot outside. Their leader, Makar, stops them. Back on Earth, the company's main investor calls Konstantin's office. Pavel panics, but Galina stands out of the caller's sight and starts playing with the baby, making him perform the movement she needs. Pavel informs that he will conduct the presentation. Everything goes smoothly until the very end of the conversation, when Konstantin starts poking Pavel's face, and Pavel, losing his composure, threatens to spank the troublemaker. Surprised by such an informal communication style, the investor disconnects. Pavel leaves, setting Konstantin up to watch cartoons. Meanwhile, it turns out that Makar recognizes Kolya as a very famous craftsman. Konstantin, tired of watching cartoons, turns on a lullaby for himself and starts to go to sleep. Makar shows Kolya his collection of mini-items, which he shrunk using his personally invented quantum shrinker. Back on Earth, Konstantin's secretary enters his office and finds him naked. Shocked, she screams, and Konstantin runs out the open door. While Pavel is giving a report, a naked Konstantin enters the meeting room. Konstantin sees this on TV and is horrified. His reputation is completely ruined. Overhearing this conversation, Makar realizes who is in his hands. He is about to call the others when Konstantin uses the shrinker. Kolya struggles to find the shrunken Makar and apologizes to him. Then, Makar's wife enters, sees her shrunken husband, and runs away screaming for help. At this time on Earth, Pavel confesses to the shareholders about wiping Konstantin's mind. They officially assign the assistant to build the factory on Mars. On Plutonsk, enraged miners burst into Makar's apartment. The door gives way, and the workers, entering the apartment, see the shrunken Makar on the table, pointing at a mini-plane where the pair are. Shrunken Konstantin and Kolya take off in the plane, but the miners manage to slam the window shut. A worker catches the plane, but Konstantin revs the engine at full power. The smoke hits the worker's face, who can't hold on, and releases the machine. The plane aims for the doorway, but it can only pass through at the bottom. Ignoring Konstantin's warning, Kolya raises his head and sees, to his horror, a hole in the miner's pants above him. But the next moment the plane bursts out onto the street. At the same time, construction begins on Kolya's farm, and Nadezhda warns that they are home to an endangered species. Immediately, a giant worm, Lyuda's pet, appears. The builders retreat, and Nadezhda receives a copter-delivered letter from her husband, explaining that he went to Earth to help Konstantin. The family remembers that the father is unaware of their escape. Meanwhile, Pavel receives a report about the appearance of a giant worm on the farm but is unable to resolve the issue. At this moment on Plutonsk, the shrinking effect wears off, and Kolya and Konstantin return to their normal size and finally find a space phone. Konstantin rushes to call, while Kolya sees news about the shrunken miners who now find everything sufficient. At the same time, the corporation receives a call from someone claiming to be Konstantin, demanding to speak with the secretary. Learning about this, Pavel panics, and Galina advises her husband to get rid of the robot. Konstantin catches a drone with a return letter from Nadezhda and realizes that if the man learns his family is on Mars, he won't fly to Earth. So, he hides the copter. Kolya goes to get tickets, where it turns out that robots travel in the cargo carriage. The conductor, Anya, decides to make the robot a conductor, instructs him, and leaves for a date with the train manager. While Konstantin starts his duties, Kolya meets a fellow traveler, Vasily. Back on the farm, Nadezhda tries to make the robots work, but they completely ignore her shouting, and Luda takes her mother to the barn, where she shows an instruction from their father, asking his wife to treat the robots respectfully. Konstantin starts working, but behaves rudely, justifying it as tradition. Vasily offers Kolya to play cards. The farmer agrees, not suspecting that his neighbor is a swindler. Meanwhile, on the farm, Nadezhda cuts off the robot's power as those who don't work don't eat. On the train, a passenger complains about the cold, and an infuriated Konstantin throws several fuel briquettes into the furnace. Concurrently, the train foreman breaks up with Anya. Konstantin finds her in tears and comforts her. Afterward, he goes to Kolya and asks him to tell Anya who he really is, but Kolya insists that a robot can't love because it doesn't have a heart. Vasily overhears this conversation and wins Konstantin, whom Kolya had bet in hopes of winning back the translocator. At that moment, the stove explodes and its debris hits the photonic rails. If not removed, the train will derail and annihilate. The train manager suggests Anya handle the repairs. Hearing this, Konstantin goes into open space where he gets hit by a meteorite. But he manages to hold onto the wagon and reach the accident site. He finds the damage and dislodges the obstruction, but he is thrown into open space. Konstantin sees the void before him and gradually freezes, bidding farewell to life. Suddenly, Anya's face appears. She has come out in a spacesuit to save him. Back on Mars, the robots are about to leave the farm when they hear Nadezhda's screams. They find her on the table because there's a mouse running below. Nadezhda starts crying and feeling sorry for herself, left without her husband. Then she apologizes, and the robots, unable to bear it anymore, go out to work. On Earth, Pavel goes to the roof in the evening. Secretary Vera also arrives there and unexpectedly confesses that she is very afraid of Konstantin, but she could never do anything bad to him, as that would make her no different from him. Meanwhile, on the train, passengers welcome the hero and his savior. Vasily grabs Konstantin, intending to take him away, while Kolya pulls him towards himself. The swindler's trick cards fall out, causing general confusion. Amidst the chaos, the young man rips off the robot's head and takes it with him. Kolya tries to catch the kidnapper, and although Konstantin tries to help by calling out the locations Vasily runs past, the man loses track. On Mars, water stops flowing from the tap at Kolya's house. Nadezhda heads to the construction site and sees a severed pipe. Her demands to fix the issue are rejected by the foreman, especially since the worm has apparently crawled away. Then, Lyuda shows her a secret entrance to their father's laboratory. On Saturnsk, a boy walking past Vasily's stall notices the talking robot head and buys it, as he owns a robot dog body. Konstantin's head, now on a dog's body, tries to leave, but the boy puts it on an electronic leash. Kolya goes to the police station, and to his surprise, the officers immediately start searching for the lost item. Back on Mars, Luda takes her mother and sister to the laboratory, where they hide their inventions. Among the vials, the girl shows a substance that induces a desire to work. Later, the builders, starved of dehydrated food, watch the girls refuse to eat their mother's pies, then snatch and eat them themselves. On Saturnsk, the boy takes Konstantin to a dogfight, where he is pitted against an electronic executioner dog. The boy watches his new friend being destroyed by the vicious dog and, unable to bear it, rescues his dog. They have to run away. Back on Mars, the builders feel an intense desire to work, quickly fix the water pipe, and demand more work. Meanwhile, on Saturnsk, Kolya and the police arrive at Vasily's, but he insists he has not seen any robot head. The police cannot insult him with distrust and detain the farmer. Back on Mars, the workers follow Nadezhda everywhere, demanding work. On Saturnsk, Kolya, having been released, continues searching for Konstantin's head. He goes to the control room to send out a hologram announcement about the lost head. His plea to return the robot head echoes over the market. Unaware that the microphone is still on, Kolya laments the loss of his only friend. The boy hears him and leads Konstantin to the control room. Kolya notices that the robot's fingers are moving, indicating the head is close by. He rushes to meet it. Then the boy is confronted by guys angry about the ruined fight. Seizing the moment, Konstantin runs away. But suddenly, feeling guilty, he returns. The guys grab the robot and prepare to throw it into space when Kolya finds them, but he can't save his friend in time. The robot disappears into the void, but suddenly it ascends on the wing of a spaceship. Nadezhda, tired of the overly hard-working builders, prepares new pies, adding a substance that makes one indifferent to everything. Meanwhile, on Saturnsk, it turns out that Konstantin was lucky to fall onto Pavel's starship. The delighted robot orders the assistant to pay all the boy's expenses and buy everything necessary. The boy tearfully says goodbye to his new friend. Later, Pavel examines the translocator with delight when Kostya asks him to bring some whiskey. Pavel runs away but returns immediately, demanding a share of the corporation since he had practically been managing it all this time. Kostya just laughs. Then Pavel orders to dump the robot in the nearest garbage dump. Kolya and Kostya escape in a space shuttle, unaware that they had just been talking to Galina disguised as Pavel. Meanwhile, on Mars, Luda sees an immobile robot and, feeling sorry for the poor thing, cleans and reprograms it. Kolya and Kostya's shuttle lands on the planet Cheresk. A local teenager, Demon, informs them that there is no spaceport and that the planet has been under sanctions for 100 years. The boy proudly shows a rocket that makes everyone fear them. The pair heads to the market. Suddenly, something triggers in the robot's mind, and Kolya realizes that if the robot turns off, Kostya's consciousness will be erased. They urgently need to find a battery. On Mars, Luda releases the robot, instructing it not to tell anyone that it is more than just a builder. As a farewell, the machine takes a massage book with it. Kolya unsuccessfully tries to find an electronics store on Cybernetic, as the locals pride themselves on living the old-fashioned way. The mayor they meet at the market orders an assistant to get a battery while he shows the visitor around the planet, known for its stability. The ecology is fine here because the television operates on pure energy, and the cinemas function by retelling stories. However, the battery will only be available in 3 years, as the first unit has just been launched into production. Back on Mars, a foreman catches the robot with the book and realizes it has been reprogrammed. He tries to contact his superiors, but the robot grabs him and gives him a massage, after which he forgets about the complaint. On Cheresk, Kostya goes to church, fearing death, and wants to confess. He talks about his sins and suddenly notices a pacemaker on the priest's side, powered by a battery. Kolya, who has just arrived, catches Kostya taking the battery from the priest. He drags the robot away, and it suddenly turns off. Demon comes to the rescue, his cart carrying Kostya to the rocket. Kolya connects the robot to the rocket's battery, which powers the light bulbs, as there is nothing else in the rocket. Demon is shocked because money was collected from the entire planet for the rocket. Kolya decides to open the eyes of the planet's inhabitants. They tie the rocket to the cart, and as the mayor tells the people about their happy life, the metal contraption falls apart into pieces. The stunned citizens of Cybernetic realize they have been deceived. Meanwhile, on Mars, the reprogrammed robot brings its colleagues to Luda, and the girl gets to work. Meanwhile, the grateful citizens of Cybernetic help Kolya repair the shuttle and send the pair into space. But suddenly, it turns out that the robot has started losing its memory and can't recall the coordinates of Earth. They have to land on Homeland. At the same time, Pavel tells Galina that he is canceling his subscription to her. On Homeland, Kolya and Kostya find their old garage, but the robot can't remember the lock code. They have to go to his mother. The woman immediately recognizes her son in the robot, having worked as a school principal for 30 years. Pavel learns that Galina, in his name, organized an event in honor of a fund he established for orphanage children, which received warm approval from investors. Meanwhile, back on homeland, the mother expresses her outrage to Kostya as he completely forgot about her. The grandmother, who has since passed away, had been using the garage. The pair goes to the cemetery, where new cyber monuments are installed. These monuments read events from the deceased's memory and display holograms of their best moments. The grandmother begins to tell about Kostya's childhood. At this time, children thank Pavel for his help, and he sees a triumphant Galina. The grandmother reaches the part about the trip to the sea, and Kostya remembers that the code is the date. The pair finally gets into the garage, where their photos are still stored. Just as the robot's memory begins to fail, a former vagabond arrives. After a failed experiment, he bought their shares and is now a wealthy man. He helps find a memory block for Kostya. Vera finds Pavel on the roof, and he confesses that everything was organized by his holographic wife. Hearing that he is getting divorced, the girl kisses him. Kostya gets the chance to review his memories and relive the bitter moments when his mother didn't recognize his achievements. Nevertheless, he goes to say goodbye and suddenly sees all his diplomas and childhood drawings on the wall. He realizes that his mother actually loved and was proud of him. Kostya goes to the yard and repairs his mother's fallen greenhouse. The woman runs out to say goodbye and thanks Kolya, but then she catches up with the robot, hugs him, and asks for forgiveness. Soon, the shuttle reaches the orbital checkpoint. Kolya passes the inspection and suddenly catches Kostya destroying a copter from Mars. He realizes that all this time he was corresponding with a robot that didn't want Kolya to know his family had long returned to Mars. Therefore, Kostya intercepted Nadezhda's letters and wrote tender replies to her as well. An angry Kolya leaves the robot at the checkpoint. Pavel goes on a hunting trip organized by an investor. Galina gives more instructions. As if Pavel impresses the employers, he will get an appointment. Among the guests is Vera, who catches the main investor's attention. Kostya devises a new plan and confesses to the police that he is carrying contraband. The pair are detained. Kolya learns that if uncertified parts are found in the robot, it will be left here, and the man will be deported to his place of registration. He immediately declares the robot entirely contraband. At this time, the hunting team starts shooting down gray drones. It turns out that Pavel is an excellent shooter, and the investor challenges him to a competition. Galina advises her husband to lose so that the investor will sign off on his appointment. Kostya is sent to a pen for robots. At the hunt, remembering Galina's advice, Pavel intentionally misses his shots. Vera tries to cheer him up, but he, jealous of her attention to the investor, insults her. She grabs a rifle, and during the struggle, the boss gets shot in the rear. Kolya boards a shuttle to Earth and finally reads the last letter from Nadezhda, where she admits that his letters helped her realize how much she loves him. Kostya causes a scene, which suddenly gains support from the other robots. They too have a right to life. The boss speaks poorly of Vera in a conversation with Pavel, for which he receives a face full of tea. At the checkpoint, a real robot uprising begins, but they all leave, losing Kostya, who is saved by the returning Kolya. At the hunt, Pavel's actions unexpectedly earn the investor's praise, but in the final photo, Galina is asked to step aside so that only humans appear in the image. Kolya and Kostya manage to catch the last ride to Earth. At this time, Vera thanks Pavel for defending her, and he kisses her in front of Galina. Meanwhile, Kolya and Kostya reach Kostya's residence. The robot's head is attached to a copter, and it becomes furious upon seeing Pavel sitting at its table. At the same time, the news reports his appointment as the new head of Izhevsk Dynamics. The robot enters the building through the ventilation pipe, lets Nikolai inside, and at that moment sees its human body. A touching reunion occurs, but now they need to find the translocator. Kostya shows Kolya a secret room from which he monitors the office workers, and the pair find the room where the device is stored. On Mars, the lights go out in a house. Luda finds out that the builders damaged the Birch's repeaters, but the foreman refuses to stop the construction. Then the girl decides to punish the rude man. First, she activates the natural watering system over him. Then she replaces his shampoo with drops for rapid vegetable growth. The man instantly becomes covered in hair. Kolya and Kostya decide to infiltrate the Idchevsk Dynamics office using Konstantin's human body. They reach the office and enter the lobby, but during an argument, they lose Konstantin, who gets distracted by balloons. The pair splits up. The robot goes in search of its human body, while Kolya goes after the translocator. At this time, Pavel receives congratulations and takes over the CEO's office. But then Galina appears, also rushing to congratulate her husband and demonstrates the ability to change her appearance to look like Vera. Kolya listens to praises of Kostya's genius, who has claimed his friend's discoveries as his own, while the robot hunts for Konstantin's body. Pavel comforts Galina, who cries because she cannot touch her beloved as she is a hologram. He suggests a brilliant solution to transfer her mind into Vera's body. Pavel is horrified, but at that moment, the secretary enters, and Galina immediately starts asking her personal questions. The girl leaves in confusion. At the same time, on Mars, the foreman enters a toilet and comes out many kilometers away from that place because Luda activated her father's portals. Then the girl took a voice-changing device and spoke to the man in his assistant's voice, suggesting the boss take a vacation. But he notices Luda, and she has to run. Meanwhile, Kolya manages to steal the translocator, but when Konstantin's hologram begins talking about his inventions, the man can't stand it and starts a revealing speech. At the same time, the robot hears the investors rejoicing that they got rid of him. Unable to bear it, he grabs the chief by the throat. A corporate tour guide notices the translocator under Kolya's coat and calls security. The investor does the same. Vera leaves a resignation letter for Pavel because she doesn't want to be the third wheel in a relationship. At the same time, on Mars, the house starts shaking, and women running out onto the street see a bulldozer approaching the farm, with the foreman at the wheel. On Earth, Pavel prepares to destroy the ring that controls Galina when the robot goes to the roof and sees his body on the very edge. News circulates worldwide about a man on the roof who apparently plans to end his life. The robot tries to stop his body, while Kolya, using reversal machines, makes the security retreat. At that moment, Konstantin falls, but the robot manages to grab his hand. Seeing this, Kolya runs to the roof and saves Konstantin. He places the robot and his body in the shuttle and heads for Mars. Galina appears before Pavel and reminds him of all his deeds that could be considered crimes. At the same time, on Mars, all the reprogrammed robots builders stand in defense of the farm. On Earth, news spreads of the kidnapping of the head of Idchevsk Dynamics by a farmer from Mars, with a pursuit team sent after him. Pavel receives his appointment and delivers a response speech in which he thanks the leadership and runs out of the hall. On Mars, Nadezhda is packing her things because she's tired of fighting the corporation. Suddenly, a shuttle lands in front of the farm and Kolya steps out. The family joyfully greets him, but is outraged upon seeing Konstantin. Pavel goes to Vera and invites her to fly with him. At the same time, on Mars, Kolya asks to restore the barn to the state it was in during the first resettlement. However, the device does not work. Kolya rushes to the birches and discovers that all the inaccessium, a very rare substance, the reason for the farm's demolition, has been depleted from under them. But the foreman refuses to help the people, as Loda has caused him much trouble. Again, the robots come to the rescue, giving the man a full-body massage, after which he waters the birches with a substance. The resettlement process begins, but then Special Forces squads descend on Mars. In the barn, the process stops because Kolya finds that the device is missing a capacitor. Pavel, who has arrived with Vera, cancels the barn's storming. It turns out he removed the capacitor to prevent Galina from carrying out her plan, and now he has brought it back. Kolya restarts the process, but this time it's interrupted by Vera. It turns out that Galina visited her, told her about the compromising material on Pavel, and suggested a plan to save him. And now, Galina reappears before the people, asking them to reconsider and not to bring back the jerk and traitor. Nevertheless, Kolya decides to bring back his former friend. He activates the translocator, Vera activates the ring, and, inside, Konstantin is now Galina. Kostya the robot screams in horror. Later, Konstantin, now with Galina's mind, gives a speech to the board while Kolya is arrested and the robot is sent to the scrapyard. Unbeknownst to him, the Iron Man is noticed by conductor Anya. he solemnly promises a change in life, heard by all the inhabitants of the galaxy, presenting his development, the Translocator. At this time, on Mars, a hologram of Kolya turns on, informing his family about his rescue plan. And with that, the series ends.